4 in a row for the Kings as they go into LA to start their 6-game road trip and hand the Lakers their first loss on home court. The Lakers were 5-0 at home before this game. And my favorite stat of the night is Domantas Sabonis improves to 8-0 against Anthony Davis in his career. Now, does that stat actually mean anything? No. But is it really fun to brag about Sabonis being 8-0 over Anthony Davis, especially when he had a dominant game against AD in this one? Absolutely. Head-to-head matchups don't mean much, but Anthony Davis had a horrible game in this one, and Sabonis had a great game. So, we get to cherry pick some stats, and it really is kind of sad for the Lakers for when they traded for Anthony Davis, what they thought they were getting was a guy who either right away or within a few years could take over as the number one option for a team with an older LeBron James. And instead, it's been how many years? 4 years since Anthony Davis got traded to the Lakers, and we got 38-year-old LeBron still trying to carry this team while we have always disappearing AD scoring 9 points in the whole game. That was something from Anthony Davis. Very fun game to watch. Apart from the fourth quarter, the Kings let it get a little too close. Kind of knew that was coming, and we'll talk about why, but kind of the same exact thing that happened against Cleveland, but luckily they had a big enough lead, and when Fox comes back in, it usually calms things down. But let's start from the very beginning of this game, which was, again, for the second straight game, the Kings losing the tip and then Fox grabbing the ball and immediately scoring. I think last game he got a layup within 7 seconds, or he missed one and then put his own layup back. In this one, it was even better. It was 3 seconds and it was an and one. I doubt we'll really see this much again because you would think teams are going to be like, maybe we should not let that happen when it happens twice in a row. But very fun that his first 2 games back from injury, he just immediately scores. It sets a nice tone for the game. But the Kings came out of the gates absolutely on fire. But it wasn't just from three, they were on fire from everywhere. It was Sabonis going right at Anthony Davis, getting into his chest. That's something Sabonis is really good at. Good shot blockers tend to struggle against Sabonis because Sabonis is able to just put his chest or his shoulder into their chest and knock them off balance and use his strength against their length. And so Anthony Davis is a great shot blocker, but he can't do much when he's getting put off balance. And one thing we know about Anthony Davis is at times he really shies away from contact. Throughout his whole career, he hasn't wanted to play the center position because of the amount of physicality, and that's something that Sabonis obviously brings. And I think we've seen it against Chet, we've seen it against Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. Now we see it against Anthony Davis in this one. We've seen it before against Gobert. It's the stronger guys, maybe not the tallest, longest shot blocking guys, but it's the stronger centers that Sabonis has a harder time scoring against. But when it's, Anthony Davis is a strong guy, but I think he just shies away from the contact. And Sabonis took full advantage. And after those games in Houston where Fox was out and he wasn't scoring and he just wasn't taking over the team like he should, he has been amazing. 29 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists. He had the double-double in the first half alone. And not only was he doing it on the offensive end, but he was really good defensively as well. The Kings as a team were pretty good protecting the rim. In the first quarter, the Lakers missed a lot of bunnies, but the Kings were contesting, and that's just something we've seen throughout this season. That's been a big improvement from last year, is the rim protection. I think everyone thought that rim protection would have to come with an upgrade from outside the team, bringing in a shot blocker. And while that is true that there is a ceiling to how good the rim protection can be without a true shot blocker, this team has improved a lot protecting the rim by just all buying in to staying vertical and collapsing on the paint and just getting their hands up. And Sabonis is at the forefront of that. It also helps when Keegan Murray isn't getting blown by every time, and you can put him on a good guard. And he was awesome defensively. It's just incredible how much better he is defensively than he was last season. And so I think Keegan had a super good defensive game. Sabonis had a really good defensive game, limiting Anthony Davis. And one thing that was interesting about this game is there were a lot of times, as expected, where, is Harrison Barnes guarding LeBron for the entire game and Sabonis on AD. And the Lakers wanted to get that switch. So they would get Sabonis onto LeBron and Harrison Barnes onto Anthony Davis. And it really did not work for them at all, especially in the first half. The amount of times that LeBron got the switch, would pass it into AD, and then the Kings would do a great job of just swarming, getting their hands in the passing lanes and preventing Anthony Davis from making any plays was awesome to see. It was great defense against Anthony Davis. And then when that wasn't working for the Lakers, LeBron started to get more in a score first mindset, or that he was going to take Sabonis off the dribble. And Sabonis is always a guy who's pretty good at moving his feet on the perimeter. And he was able to stay in front and use his help defenders to be able to do a good enough job on LeBron. I think LeBron had like 21 points by halftime, or like 19, something around there. But it didn't really feel like he was playing that well. The Kings were able to limit him actually pretty well, and LeBron was just hitting some threes. And that's just something you have to accept when you're guarding LeBron. You pack the paint and you let him shoot threes and you hope he misses. And he started the game out hot, and then he started missing them as the game went on. It wasn't until the fourth quarter where LeBron really started to make a big impact. But the Kings as a whole defensively were pretty good, especially the starting unit. When they went to the bench, it definitely got a little shaky at times. When we would bring in Monk for Keegan, that is a massive drop off defensively in terms of length, size, and now that Keegan actually has the ability to stay in front of guards, in lateral quickness as well, and shutting down guys like D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves. So there's a big drop off when even one guy from the bench comes in. But I thought the starting unit did a pretty good job defensively in this game. Harrison Barnes had the task of guarding LeBron for like 39 minutes, or he played 39 minutes, and LeBron played 35 minutes in this one. And I think all but maybe 2 or 3 of those minutes, it was Harrison Barnes guarding LeBron. There were a few Chris Duarte minutes in there, and Duarte came in, immediately picked up a foul on the first possession. Now, I don't think he deserved it by any means, but it's just like, that trend continues. He has the most fouls per minute by a long shot in the NBA this season. But it was interesting. We have seen Duarte on LeBron already this season, and it's really a matter of off the bench. Do you go with Duarte, or do you go with Kessler Edwards to guard LeBron? Or do you stagger Barnes and Murray and try to do it that way? And so that's a weakness of this team, because I think Duarte was the right answer just because he's stronger and quicker. Like, I think Kessler Edwards would probably get run over by LeBron. Not that Duarte can stop LeBron by any means, but I do think that was the right play. But that's just a huge limitation when you have to. It's Barnes or nothing, it feels like, against LeBron. Like, I think Keegan could do a solid job, but they have him guarding guards out there. And Keegan's done a great job of that. And so that's just something the Kings need. They need a bigger wing defender off the bench, or obviously, like we've talked about, in the starting lineup to replace Barnes. And so you hear this talk about Zach LaVine on the trade market, and should the Kings try to get him? I don't think so. That's just not where the Kings need to improve. So Barnes in this one it was a weird game. because he is guarding LeBron. He did go 5 for 10 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3. He had 4 steals, most of them, I think, against LeBron. The Kings as a whole had 20 steals. That is an insane number. Fox had 4. Everyone in the starting lineup had 2 plus. And then we had Sasha getting 2, McGee with 2, Monk with 1. And so, like Barnes, he was scoring, he was guarding LeBron and doing an okay job until the fourth quarter. And I don't expect Barnes to be able to do it himself. And I think the Kings kind of dropped off in terms of help defense as the game went on into the fourth quarter. But then there were just some times where Barnes was getting like scorched by Rui. And I was kind of shaking my head at some of his rotations and him just being like flat footed, not getting to rebounds, flailing his arms at the ball instead of trying to rotate over and contest a shot. So it was just a mixed bag from Barnes in this game for me. It's hard to blame him for anything when he has to, like I said, go out there for 30 plus minutes and guard LeBron the whole time. But I think it just shows where the Kings need to improve their roster. But I thought they did a solid job in this game for what they have defensively. And then offensively, I think a large part of the Kings being able to hit so many threes against the Lakers and create so many wide open shots is because Anthony Davis wants to play drop coverage, and the Lakers are out there starting D'Angelo Russell, or sometimes they have Austin Reeves on the court, and then they also have LeBron out there. And so, yes, you have Taurean Prince and Cam Reddish, who are solid wing defenders, and then you have Anthony Davis, who's a good rim protector. But the Kings could take advantage of LeBron not wanting to step up and fight over a screen, and Anthony Davis then not stepping up, or Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell not fighting over those screens. And it created a lot of open looks for shooters, mainly Kevin Huerter, also Harrison Barnes, and it was also Sabonis pushing the ball in transition and getting it to the middle of the paint, forcing help, and Fox pushing the ball in after made baskets. He was just pushing the ball down the floor and generating a wide open look off one pass after like 3 seconds. And the Lakers, they're coming off the second half of a back to back. And so the Kings did a great job of exploiting that. And I think Kevin Huerter even said it after the game that they were, trying to tire them out in the first half. And they did exactly that by just pushing the ball every time, getting open looks, because the Lakers just weren't ready to defend in transition. There was a point in the third quarter where when Kevin Huerter was on fire, when the Kings ran their gut zoom action, like it felt like 10 times in a row. And pretty much what it is you either have De'Aaron Fox or Keon Ellis, whoever's running the point, in like the mid post area, and then they give it to Sabonis near the free throw line. Then they set a screen for Kevin Huerter, who's coming around, and then it turns into a handoff from Sabonis to Huerter, who then is driving up the gut of the defense, hence the gut zoom. And Huerter, it just generates so much space for Huerter, and when Huerter is feeling it, it makes the defenders either have to close out really hard, and then Huerter can step up, have the defender on his back, and create from there. Either take the midi or the floater, or find the open man, or it allows him to get an open jump shot from 3, where he does that like side step, creating space. And it's obviously all enabled by Sabonis setting awesome screens and then Huerter's shooting ability. And it really felt like, the Kings just said, we are going to run this play every single possession until you guys stop it. And the Lakers just couldn't stop it. And you could see Kevin Huerter, 7 assists to go along with his 28 points on 6 for 11 from 3. And that was a lot generated by him getting to the middle of the floor because guys were closing out so hard, forcing him off the 3-point line. And then he was creating from there. And he had 0 turnovers on those 7 assists. An amazing game for Kevin Huerter. He was also solid defensively in this one, which is the big thing that I love because it enables him to stay on the court when he's playing well defensively. That means even if his shot isn't falling, he can stay on the court, which is big because we all knew at some point his shot was going to start falling this season. And in the last 3 games, it has. But it's come along with a much improved defensive effort from him. Keegan Murray kind of struggled shooting the ball again in this one, but played really solid defense on both Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell, like I mentioned. And it's just crazy that he can be out there guarding two guards who are kind of known for their craftiness and just lock them down. D'Angelo Russell made some tough shots and especially got it going late, but Keegan was forcing him into tough shots time after time. And then Austin Reeves had a rough game where he only scored 9 points on 4 for 10 shooting, 0 for 5 from 3, 4 turnovers. So just an amazing defensive effort from Keegan again. The starting lineup was just lights out in this game all around. It was the bench where things got a little bit, wild. And so if you remember in the last game against the Cavs, the Kings had that big run at the end of the third quarter, and they were up by, I think, 21. And they came out with a lineup of Fox, Monk, JaVale McGee, Sasha Vezenkov, and then in this game, they did the same thing, and it was Barnes out there. I can't remember if it was Barnes against the Cavs, but a very similar lineup, maybe the exact same lineup. I know 4 were definitely the same. And both games, the Kings just got super sloppy and let the other team back into the game. And it's something the Kings struggled with last season, with putting opponents away. It would have been really nice if we didn't have to play all of our guys 39, 38 minutes in this one when you're just at the start of a road trip. And so it would have been really nice to put him away. And it's just really Monk being extremely careless with the ball, having a horrible game. He made 2 really nice plays when he first came in that first quarter, and then the rest of the game was just horrible from him. Nothing was going offensively. It was just Monk over dribbling time after time and then turning the ball over. JaVale McGee was making some questionable decisions out there. And those two are just so chaotic. And then you had Fox out there as well, but he just wasn't really getting the ball. And this happened in the second quarter as well. And then it was like 5 possessions of bad Monk McGee basketball. And then Fox finally got the ball 2 possessions in a row, scored, and then lobbed it to McGee. And it was great. That was the second quarter. In the fourth quarter, I think Fox was a little gassed. And he was just kind of standing in the corner, which is like, I can't blame him for that. He shouldn't have to be initiating the offense on every single possession that he's on the court. And that's why we have Monk out there to initiate the offense. And Monk was just not doing Fox any favors. And then Sabonis came back in, settled things down a little bit, scored a few times in a row, but they were still just really sloppy in that fourth. The Kings then couldn't get a stop. D'Angelo Russell was heating up. Cam Reddish hit a 3. LeBron got going, and that was scary. And it just all was started from the Kings turning the ball over and letting the Lakers get out and get easy buckets in transition. And it's just something we've seen 2 games in a row. The Kings were able to close it out because they were amazing the rest of the game and had that big lead. Fox came back into the game, settled things down a little bit, and the Kings did enough down the stretch to be able to make sure it didn't. I don't know if it ever even got under 9 in the fourth quarter, but it was still nerve-wracking. And so I'm hoping that's something that the Kings can improve on as the season goes on. Just knowing how to kill a game. And I just think the chaos that Monk creates and McGee create, like sometimes it can be good, but when you're up by 24 points going into the fourth quarter, that's just a time where you just need to kill the game. You don't need to score on every possession, but you definitely can't let the other team get easy buckets because you're just lazy with the ball. So that was the one negative of this game. And because it was in the fourth quarter, I know it left a sour taste in some Kings fans' mouths, but when you win by 15, I don't think it really matters what happened at the end there. At the end of the day, we still won 4 in a row. Still beat the Lakers, who were undefeated at home, and beat them pretty big still. So I would much rather us see these problems now and try to fix them, maybe by switching up the rotations and having different guys out there at the start of the fourth or whatever needs to happen. Maybe somehow you have Sabonis out there at the start of the fourth and plus Monk, and then a little ways through you swap them out for Fox and McGee, and then a little bit later Sabonis comes back in for McGee. Maybe that's the rotation that we could go with, so that you don't have Monk and McGee out there trying to be the pick and roll pair, and it's Monk and Sabonis, which is probably a little more stable, and then Fox and McGee, which I think is more stable. I think the last guy I haven't talked about for this one is Sasha Vezenkov, and he didn't knock down any of his three threes, but I thought he played well. I think the Kings are really learning to use his cutting ability to create easy looks for him around the basket, because that's something I saw at Olympiacos. He was an extremely good cutter, and he's now in these last few games getting the ball a lot more often on those cuts where he gets right under the rim. And so that got him an easy layup and a trip to the free throw line in this one to get him his 4 points. I also thought he was really solid defensively. He picked up those 2 steals, like I mentioned, active hands. And so I thought he was good. Oh, another guy I didn't mention, I didn't talk about Keon Ellis. Yeah, Keon, he didn't have the best game. I think what I've seen from him so far in his NBA minutes is it's just his shot selection that's poor. He's not taking the open shots. A lot of times he's passing them up, then doing a little jab step, and that can be infuriating offense where it's just one guy catches the ball, pump fake, jab step, one dribble, pass the ball, next guy, pump fake, jab step, one dribble, pass the ball. Like, that's horrible offense. So he falls into that a lot. And then he also took like a tough three when it's like you were just open. Why are you taking this tough three? So shot selection needs to improve for him. Other than that, he was fine. That's the main thing that I've seen from him in his short, meaningful NBA career and NBA minutes, not any of the garbage time minutes. Davion is still getting that DNP. I think at some point he'll get his shot back in the lineup. At some point, it's going to be, Keon making some mistakes, playing poorly as, a young player, and then Davion will get his chance. It is interesting that he doesn't get put in garbage time, but maybe when there's a game where there's like extended garbage time, he'll get in. This was like there's 11 seconds of garbage time. Last game, it was a little bit more. He still didn't get put in. It was like a minute. But he will get his chance. And hopefully he takes that chance when he gets it. But if he doesn't, then it seems like he will be traded at some point this season. I think really the main thing with him is he is great at isolation defense of staying in front of his man, but he just needs to be more than that, because at 6 feet tall, guys can just shoot over him. So it's not enough for that to be his only trait. He needs to be a 3-point shooter. He needs to make smart decisions offensively to be able to stay on the court, because he's not just going to stay on the court because of his defense. Also, De'Aaron Fox, his 3-point shot, like he's been hot to start the season, and he went 3 for 9 in this game, which obviously isn't great. It's not horrible, but it seems legit. Like I think he absolutely has an improved 3-point shot, and that makes him so scary if players have to respect his 3-point shot, because he can just go right by them with his speed. And I think with him out, I realized that I don't appreciate how fast he is enough, because there were just so many plays in this game where with ease he just went right by Laker defenders. And that's just, nobody else does that. Like, there are so few players in the NBA who can just go right by a defender and leave them in the dust like Fox. And it is so fun to watch. And the way he's bought in defensively, and obviously his clutch time scoring, which, I don't, obviously we didn't get to clutch time in this game, but I think he was really good at responding to Laker runs and just settling things down. And that is kind of another form of clutch scoring. It's not, the definition of clutch time, but I feel like it's a similar trait to be able to stop other teams' runs from spiraling out of control. I mean, it's very early. He's only played 5 games this season, but the MVP chat, it's starting. It's obviously stupid to be talking about MVP 10 games into the season, especially when the guy you're talking about has only played 5 games. But people are talking. I'm just saying. The Kings' next matchup is against the San Antonio Spurs, who have not looked good recently. I think they're on a big losing streak right now. Looked, competitive to start the season, but now fallen off. They have been without Keldon Johnson and Trey Jones. I don't know if they'll be back. Trey Jones is big for them because without him, they just don't have a point guard. It'll be really interesting to see Sabonis inside against Wemby. Now, that won't be the primary matchup because the Spurs have been starting Zach Collins, although I think there was a time when they realized, oh, we should probably be starting a point guard, and then they put Trey Jones in. I can't remember if they still were starting Zach Collins or if it was Collins that went to the bench and Sohan that stayed in. I can't remember. But either way, it'll probably be Zach Collins in the starting lineup that will match up against Sabonis. But for Sabonis and for Fox to be able to navigate the interior against a guy with just insane length like Victor Wembanyama will be super interesting to watch. I have no idea how it's going to go. I mean, what we're seeing from Wemby and Chet, but Wemby just to a whole nother level, is like it doesn't matter where he is on the court. He can block any shot, and guys will just be, in the corner shooting a regular 3-point shot with a bunch of space, and then somehow he blocks it. And it's like, it's so abnormal and not what guys are used to. NBA players, they see a certain amount of space that they have and they're like, oh, this is an open look. I'll just relax, catch, shoot. And with him, it's like he somehow blocks it. And so it's super entertaining to watch, but when it's against the Kings, I'm sure it will be super frustrating to watch. But the Kings just have to make sure they're getting back in transition because Wemby will run the floor in transition to try to get easy buckets under the rim when he has mismatches. And so guys just need to be physical with him to keep him out of the paint, keep him from getting deep. And then on the other end, just keep moving the ball like this team always does, and that will, to some extent, neutralize his shot blocking ability. And just keep being physical with him. He's also very turnover prone, which, is to be expected from a guy who's 7'4", who's a rookie, who is handling the ball quite a lot. So, that's to be expected. We just got to try to exploit that. But this is an in-season tournament game. The Wolves are top of the group right now, 2-0. I believe the Spurs are 0-2, and then the Thunder are 1-2, and the Warriors are 1-1, with the Kings being 1-1. I mean 1-0. I really want the Kings to win their group in the in-season tournament. I love the in-season tournament, so this is a bigger game for me than just regular season games. So I'm really looking forward to it. Anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. I will be back on Friday after the game to recap the game against the Spurs. Peace.